We didn't, to our knowledge." "Send Huett to me." The scout approached. He was a young man, about 23 years old, dark of face. In fact, he bore somewhat of a resemblance to Mademoiselle, and he was so stalwart and powerfully built that he did not look tall. "What's your report, Huett?" "General, we made sure of getting Mademoiselle alive," replied the scout. "Otherwise, none of them would have escaped. I guessed where Mademoiselle's bunch was headed for. We cut in behind them, chased them into a box canyon, where we cornered them. They had but little ammunition, or we'd had a different story to tell." "Don't dodge the main point as McKinney did. Were there any Indians killed?" "We couldn't find any dead ones." "Willis, fetch this Apache to me." In a few moments, Mademoiselle stood before the general, his arms crossed over his ragged buckskin shirt, his somber eyes steady and inscrutable. "You understand white man talk?" queried General Crook. "No sabe," replied Mademoiselle sullenly. "General, he can understand you and speak a little English," spoke up the sergeant who knew Mademoiselle. "Did my soldiers kill any of your people?" The Apache shook his head. "But you would have killed us," said the general severely. Mademoiselle made a magnificent gesture that embraced the forest and the surrounding wilderness. "White men steal red man's land," he said loudly. "Pen Indian up. No horse, no gun, no hunt." General Crook had no ready answer for that retort. "You Indians will be taken care of," he said presently. "It's better for you to stay peaceably on the reservation with plenty to eat." "No," thundered the Apache. "Geronimo say better fight, better die." "Take him away," ordered the general, his face red. "Captain Willis, according to this Apache, it sounds as if old Geronimo will break out all right. You had it figured." Before the sergeant led Mademoiselle away, the Indian bent a piercing glance upon the scout, Logan Huett, and stretching out a lean red hand, he tapped Huett on the breast. "You no friend, Apache." "What do you want, Redskin?" demanded Huett, surprised and nettled. "I could have shot you, but I didn't. I obeyed orders, though I think the only good Indian is the dead one." "You track Apache like wolf," said the Indian bitterly. His eagle eyes burned with a superb and piercing fire. "Mademoiselle, live, get even." It was autumn before Logan Huett was released from his military duties, once more free to ride where he chose. Leaving the reservation with light pack behind his saddle, he crossed the Civic and headed up out of the manzanita, scrub oak, and juniper to the cedars and pinyons of the Tonto Rim. The trail climbed gradually. That same day he reached the pines and the road General Crook had cut along the ragged edge of the Great Basin. Huett renewed his strong interest in this mesa. From the rim, its highest point, some 8,000 feet above sea level, it sloped back 60 miles to the desert. A singular feature about this cliff was that it sheered abruptly down into the Black Tonto Basin on the south, while the canyons that headed within a stone's throw of the crest all ran north. A few miles from their source, they were deep, grassy valleys with heavily timbered slopes. The ridges between the canyons bore a growth of pine and spruce, and the open parks and hollow swales had groves of aspen and thickets of maple. The region was a paradise for game. It had been the hunting grounds of the Apache, and they had burned the grass and brush every year, making the forest open. Back toward the Civic, several cattle combines, notably the Hash Knife outfit, ran herds of doubtful numbers on the lower slopes. At Pleasant Valley, sheepmen and cattlemen were at odds over the grazing. Sooner or later, they would clash. Huett left that country far behind to the east. He traveled leisurely, camping in pretty spots, and on the third night reached the canyon head where he had brought Mademoiselle and his Apache comrades to General Crook, which service practically ended the campaign. He found where the soldiers had built their campfires, little heaps of white and lilac ashes in the grass. He thought of the somber